All right, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation of the DBA Fundamentals Virtual Group. Today, we're talking about the DBA Survival Guide, 360 degrees of SQL Server backup and restore with our friend Taiob. Today is July 22nd, 2025, and we're going to have some fun learning about backups and restores. On the right-hand side of the screen, you should be able to see the three leaders of the DBA Fundamentals Virtual Group. Steve Cantrell, Shane O'Neill, and myself, Kevin Wilkie. To the right of us, you'll see our X handles, easiest way to get hold of us. Below that, you'll see many of our social media platforms. The one that most of you should be familiar with is Meetup, where most of you finally actually got onto this and found all the information you need to connect and all the abstract and bio information for today's presentation. You'll see all of the future presentations as we get them out there ready to go for y'all. Below that is our webpage, dbafund.com, where you can see all of our past presentations, future presentations as well. Below that, you'll see our YouTube page, dbafundtube.com. Be sure to like and subscribe as much as you can on there so that you'll know exactly when we have presentations like today's ready for you to view, so you can see all of the past and future gloriousness. Below that is some of our other ways to get hold of us, obviously our X handle, our Slack channel, and our LinkedIn group. Here are some upcoming conferences I thought would be entertaining for at least for y'all to know about, think about going to. On August 11th through the 15th this year is TechCon 365 here in Atlanta. If any reason you come to Atlanta, be sure to go to especially this conference because there's going to be lots of goodness from Microsoft 365, everyone's favorite these days, Copilot and AI. And then one of our personal favorites, Power Platforms. You get to see all kinds of goodness about all that and how they mix and match and play around with. You can learn all kinds of goodness. Also, later this year, October 19th through the 23rd, is the Community Summit in Orlando, Florida. If you have any reason to be down there, and we all should find reasons to be in Orlando at least some point, go to that. You'll have great fun as well. Also, remember to turn off your video and mute yourself. We'll be doing that here very shortly. It's when we turn it over to Ollie, so he can actually play it. We can all pay attention to him and what he does. Learn all kinds of goodness. And be sure if you have any questions, put them into the chat so we can ask and answer friend Taiob. Speaking of Taiob, it is your turn to speak on gloriousness.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. I do not have any slides. I don't know if it's a good news or bad news for everyone.
Yes, we see them.
Okay, awesome. So the tool that you see is called Visual Studio Code. This is written by Microsoft. It is, the main purpose of this is not to have markup files, which I'm using right now. You can do all kind of stuff. This is, I'm not going to talk about that. That's not the point. And so I welcome everyone. Thank you for spending your lunchtime. So if you have any question, comments, we'll start from very basic stuff. You might get a little bit frustrated if you've been doing this for a while. Hopefully you will learn something, but as we go through the demos, which most of this session will be demo based, we'll get into a little bit more more deeper, like partial restore, file group restore, when do we do and why do we need to. Take note of my contacts. I'm not going to talk about my bio. So after this presentation, because we'll stop sharp at 1 o'clock because it's a lunch hour meeting. So we have 55 minutes. If you have questions, comments, or anything, if you reach out to me, you can use any of this. I can guarantee you that you're going to get an answer from me. And if I do not know the answer, I know some smart people, I will get the answer from you and get back to you. You do not need to take note on anything, do not need to take snapshots. I will share everything in my GitHub repo, and you can download it from there, use it, share it, present it. I really don't care. I'll be glad, if it comes to any use to you. I'm sure you probably read the abstract and you thought, it might be useful to you. That's why you joined. So I'm not going to read that. These are kind of our two objectives. In life, I'm not trying to be philosophical here, right? Anything you want to learn or you want to spend time, you need a why, right? Why do you do this, right? So why would you spend your lunch hour or in 1 hour in between your work and listening to me, right? You need to understand that. If you do not, then doesn't matter how awesome my presentation is, how awesome the demo is, it becomes useless because I don't know my purpose. So as a data steward, right? And we have all kind of fancy titles nowadays, but I'm just focusing on we are keeper of the data. I personally feel like in terms of SQL Server or pretty much any database platform, doesn't matter you use Postgres or whatever, one thing and only one thing we need to make sure, any committed transaction should be recoverable. If I tell a caller, that can be a user from SSMS, that can be an application, ORM or whatever. If they get acknowledgement back that this transaction committed, our job is to, in case of a disaster, what kind of disaster, I don't care, we should be able to recover it. If we cannot, I think it's a failure. About 10 years ago, I used to work for a healthcare company, very large in US, in the dialysis space. They own pretty much 50% of market share. You probably, you can figure out the name or you can go to my LinkedIn. So it's called Fresenius Medical. My boss, I wouldn't say he got fired. I think he left the position, let me put it that way, just because of this. We could not recover one single transaction. And that led to, not a pleasant situation. So primary reason for database backups. I put some points. I'm not going to read all this because all of you can download. I don't need to waste your time and just read this. But just remember, there can be many, many different kind of failures. I don't know if anybody saw the stuff going on in Microsoft space this morning. There's already more than 100 companies got impacted. I think it started yesterday. There's another news came up yesterday in BBC. There's a tracking company, one single weak password, their business doesn't exist anymore. Let me put that way. They're totally gone. So cyber attack is happening every day. It's just a matter of time when you and me, we get hit, right? And how bad we get hit. Of course, human errors. I do it, you do it. All of us at some point, we are stressed, overworked, over time, we make mistakes. Software bugs. I cannot remember the company. Last year, you probably saw they were a partner of Microsoft. The whole world got impacted, right? All the airports, all big companies got impacted because of a patch that they deployed, which was not tested properly, or that edge case they didn't catch. So all these things happen. This is going to happen. It's part of life. It's not going to go anywhere. Doesn't matter. And it's not your fault, right? You can be the best driver. Somebody else can come and hit you on the road. It's the same as that. And then other thing I often talk about, and I still say it. I personally, I have a very strong opinion that it's not your job or my job, especially in cloud, to decide what kind of solution we deploy for high availability or disaster recovery. Why do I say that, right? And you might disagree with it, and I'm absolutely fine. I feel like this is a totally, should be a combination of system owners, business owners. If you have a disaster recovery manager or incident manager, and the database administrators or whatever you call yourself, reliability engineer. It should be a combined effort, right? You need to understand your app requirement, what tier is this, what is the expectation. Then you can give them like a menu item, right? Say, hey, you have this, and every, this is going to cost you this much, this is going to cost you this much, this is going to cost you this much, right? Your RPO, RTO is going to be this. You give it all to them, let them pick what they want, and then your your job and my job is to implement that and make sure it works, right? So you should test, write our scripts. We should have everything ready. So when there is a disaster, we can deliver what we agreed on. And if some of you don't agree with me, please put in the chat if you want to discuss about it. If you have a edge case scenario that that you think no, that's not the way, I'm more than happy to entertain that. And then there are some reasons, right, that we take backups. Is like refreshing your non-production environment. We take snapshots. Sometimes we mask production data, right? We might run some other store procedures, some functions in the non-product environment before we release it to them. And then legal requirements, right? Like I just told you, I worked for a healthcare company for over 4 years. I'm working over 9 years in this investment management fund, very strict requirement from Security Exchange Commission. So we get all kind of requests, right? And we have some of the data that we have to retain for X number of years, right? So make sure that there's no insider trading, there is no foul, play on all that. Healthcare has the same requirement. The place I worked, we had businesses in pretty much every state in USA, and that becomes a nightmare to comply with every state and federal government, of course, right? Because we had dialysis clinic from Hawaii to Puerto Rico, every state. So everybody had different requirement. Some people say because the dialysis takes about between 3 to 4 hours, somebody will say like, I need you to save this patient's vital during the whole dialysis every X number of minutes. Some people say I need this 10, some people need just 8, some people need it every 20 minutes. So you have to pump all this data into your database and save it for X number of years. So you need that, you need for that too. Because if you keep it in your live systems, it depends, right? If you're getting like terabytes of data, like every week, you probably don't want to keep those in your live system. You probably want to put it somewhere else, and it'll show you some of the techniques that you can implement. So a question, I found it somewhere, I don't remember, are backups alone sufficient for HADR strategy, or do you need additional technology? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. I'm not saying that your backups is everything. Like if you need to fail over right away, if you're running a business, right? Frequency trading, you're not going to say, let me restore the database, and then you can start trading, because frequency trading, every millisecond counts. So you're not going to do that. Yes, there are others, but you might have you might have like a warehouse and stuff that you're just feeding data from existing data. You might not want to do a, you might not need a like a automated failover. Maybe backups may be fine for you. There are 3 roles. This is a server level role, and these are 2 database level fixed roles that people can take backup, just in case if you need to know, like, who has permissions to do backup. And again, I just talked about this, right? Align with your business requirement. Don't make assumptions, because then you'll be in trouble when they're real disaster, because they have a different expectation, you have a different expectation. Okay, someone put in the chat they're looking for a new opportunity, nothing related, but take a look and respond if you can help. And then RPO, RTO we just talked about. So how do we do this, right? Again, don't just assume, please talk to them, agree on them, document it, and then make your backup planning. How frequently you want to back up, why do you restore it, why do you restore your old backups, right? Do you just copy it into a storage in cloud, hot, cold, or do you put in a tape and then take it offsite? How long is it going to take, retrieve it? Why do you mount the tape? And then how do DBAs get it from the tape, once you mount it? Do they have express service, right? Most tape companies will give you a couple of options, right? It's like you try to do the shipping, right? When you guys do the shopping, one is like overnight, very expensive. One is 3 days. One is 7 to 10 days. It's similar. So you need to know those. It's cost. Sometimes I get requests. Can I retrieve this tape? I'm like, yeah, I can retrieve it. Do you need it tomorrow? We pay this 3 days and 7 to 10 days. Sometimes they'll say I need it tomorrow. We pay the premium. Some people know it's not that urgent. I just need to look at something whenever I can. So okay, go for 7 to 10 days. So understand those. And then why do you restore it? Do you have a hardware ready, right? If you're in cloud, it's pretty easy, right? I can just spin up a VM, get a couple of disks, let them mount it, and I can restore it there. If you do not have set up a tenant subscription and all that, in any cloud hosting company, you need to think about it. Do you have a spare hardware in your data center? Then you can just restore it. Uh, so let's get to some technical stuff. So in recovery model, uh, most of you might know it and you might not. So there's simple, full, and bulk log. I'm talking about explicitly now about SQL Server. Simple recovery, you do not take log backup. You do not need to reclaim your transaction logs. They automatically get purged or reclaimed for reuse as soon as your transaction get committed. Um, so there is a potential for data loss, right? Because you cannot recover to point in time. And because of that, there are a couple of features. Most of these are kind of like replicating your database to a second place. You cannot do that, like log shipping always on availability group, or if you have some older servers, you're still using database mirroring. You cannot do those. Full backup, you are in control of truncating your log. So you need to understand, right? Understand your scope of transactions. You're taking backup doesn't mean that your logs are getting truncated. If you have a long transactions, single transaction, it's not getting truncated, right? So your logs are going to grow. So you can control when you're going to do that. You can recover up to a point in time, and then you can also do a tail log backup. So if you need to, if your database is damaged, and I'll show you this in the demo. Bulk log is something normally you will not see people using, but if someone asks you to use it or get a request, especially if you're doing, a bulk log inside into, please understand the ramification. Um, there are a lot of misconception about bulk log mode, a lot of misconception in the community. You still take backup, you can switch between bulk and full, but the compromises you do, I put 2 points here, make sure you understand those. You cannot do point in time restore for that period that you keep your database into the bulk log recovery model, and you cannot back up your tail of your transaction log during that time. So you are risking these two things. So before you switch this, make sure your business partners or the business owners or system owners understand this, that I'm switching to bulk log, because of the nature of the operation, but this is the restriction. You don't oppose it, right? You just educate them and let them know. And please, if I'm going too fast, you have a question, put in the chat and I'll be happy to discuss. The backup types, full backup, it takes everything. Differential is all the pages that got changed from last full backup. There's another misconception about differential backup, which I'll talk about. Transaction log backup, you decide how frequently you want to take it. So it is going to truncate, all your active logs. And then once you are done, if anything got committed, your transaction log, those spaces are going to get cleared. So, so the new transactions can use it. For full and transaction log, you can do a copy only backup because you probably already have a sequence of full, differential, and transaction log, and you probably wrote some scripts that will generate you restore script in case of a disaster. So if you do not want to disrupt that sequence, um, copy only backup is a good option. Sometimes people ask this question that, how can I know how big the backup will be? And this is the estimate, right? It's not considering the compression. So you can get estimate by running this. And this is a good article written by Paul Randall, SQL Skills or founder and owner. Uh, if you read this, you will see it's pretty neat, the way he wrote this, because there is a flag that keep tracks of every 8 pages if there is a change after the last full backup. So when you ask for a differential backup, it goes to that bitmap, find all the ones that got changed, and then it backs up those. So it can easily go and see how many got changed and multiply that, do this math with, 8 KB pages and give you the size. So you will know. And now actually, I've seen people using this dynamically, right? If your change rate is not consistent, right? So you can come, like, many shops take a full backup on a weekend and then they take differentials during the weekdays. So you can use this script dynamically and say, okay, see how many percent of my database got changed, right? And you can make a decision. If it's over 50%, I'd rather just take a full backup instead of a diff. But if it's less than that, I will take a differential backup and move on. You can do something like this. This is another good article. I put it here. We don't have time to talk about this, but what kind of errors you can get during backup and restore, especially the media errors. I think it's a good article that everyone should read that are responsible for backing up SQL Server databases. I'm not talking about in Azure Backup because if you are in a PaaS, if you're in IaaS, everything what I'm saying is going to work for you. In SaaS, of course, software as a service, you're depending on them. But if you're on a platform as a service, there you really don't take backup by yourself. You only can control the retentions. You cannot even control the frequency in PaaS in Azure. So I'm not talking about those. So, but if you're in IaaS, if you're running a SQL Server on Azure VM, unless you want to give it to the agent, you can totally do anything I'm talking about. So we are past 22 minutes. I'm going to go to the demo. I'm not coming back to this anymore. Any questions or comments?
No comments, no questions, all good.
Okay. So let's go here. So I have wrote all this, and like I said, I'll share all this in my GitHub repo. I'm using the latest and greatest SSMS 21. I put the version here in case if anybody's testing my code or playing with it. I also wrote I'm using a SQL Server 2022 CU20. I did not use 25 because it's not GA yet. I thought it will not be fair. But just so all of you know, there is some cool things with compression in SQL 2025. So if you are playing with it, planning to put some servers, go live after GA, hopefully by end of the year, look at the compression and stuff. I didn't put it here purposely because I don't think so I should be talking about, because people are probably not using it in their production. So by default, right? Just so, and I'll show you this from TSQL. I don't like GUI, but in case if you're interested, if you go to a server, go to database settings, there are a couple of settings. If you do not do anything, all of your backups will take these 3 settings, just so you know. Right? So you do not need to mention, I want my backup to be compressed. I want my checksum to be turned on and my default retention. This is something you need to decide. If you want to do this way, I have a different way of doing it. We purge based on, we have like a folder, and every folder has a different retention based on our business need. And then the PowerShell goes and delete all backups based on that. Right? I have XML file, it's from that, but whatever. But just so you know, these 3 things apply to at a server level. And if you need to change it here. It will take effect for every backup. How do you see those things? So the backup compression in sys configuration, you can see that I have it 1, and then you can change it. I already, if you're do not want it, you can set it to 0. I don't know why you wouldn't want, backups. Sorry, I cannot think of a reason that you wouldn't be using compression. So saves a lot of disk space. Checksum, again, I will always keep it turned on. I have it turned on everywhere. You can read a little bit more about this here, how this works. It's pretty, it's a safety check to me. If there is any issues with your backup, you'll know it right away. And then the retention I talked about. The default is 0 days. The max is 365 days. Nobody can override your backups. But one interesting thing that I find a lot of people do not know, this will not prevent you from deleting your backups. So just be careful. And I'll show you this in another demo. Full backup. So I have set up, the way I set up scripts, you can run any scripts in between, right? You do not have to like have this set up and then follow it. So that's how I wrote it. So I'm not going to talk about this first part, but I'll explain you what I'm doing here. I have a backup folder. I'm going to delete all the files and then I'll check if the database exists. If it exists, I'll drop it with rollback immediate, drop it, and then I'll create a database. I'll set up the recovery model. I'll have a demo table with some data to play with, right? So this will be same pretty much for every script. So I will not repeat this in the interest of time, right? So we can go quickly. So let's do it up to this portion. And then I'm going to create a demo table. And I'll have quiz in between. So if you're not paying attention, you will get caught. So create a store proc. And now I'm taking a full backup. What will happen if I run this second statement? What will happen to this backup file? Anybody want to put in the chat? Would I get a error message? Would I get a different file? Would I get the same file? Any volunteer? No. Okay. These are two handy commands. Olga said was added. What do you mean by that, Olga? Yes. Yes, Olga is correct. So if I run this right now, it will write on the same file. And now I have two backups here. So when I'm going to restore, I need to be a little bit more, as you can see here now, I have two records here, right? Before I had one. So, and then I have to tell from which one I want to restore. And, it has all the LSNs and stuff. Of course, we didn't make any changes. But if I don't want that, and there is an option called init, what this will do, this will override my existing backup, right? So you see, I have the same name, but if I do this right now, and now if I run, I'm going to see one record, right? Because it overrode that file. If you get a third-party backup file that you ask for restore, you want to see, get some data about that backup file, just keep these two handy. Okay. So now I'm going to do an expiration date, right? So this is, I think, when I was testing about this. So let's put like 23, right? Expire tomorrow. We wrote this. So now what will happen? Backup overview underscore full. It did. Interesting. So it has the expiration date, as you can see here. But if I try to delete this, it did delete the file. So just keep that in mind. Expiration date will not prevent anyone from deleting your file. Okay, let's look at the differential backups. So I'm pretty much going to do the same thing. Okay, so pay attention now. So create the database. Go 5 is not a supported syntax, but it's a quick way. Otherwise, I have to write a whole while loop and all that. So I'm just being lazy. So I inserted 5 records. I'm taking a full backup. So you have 5 backups, 5 records in the full backup. Now I'm taking 3 differential backups. Each time I'm inserting 5 records. Okay, so how many records do you have now? Simple quiz. Okay, nobody wants to write. We have 20 records, right? And which differential backup I need to restore if I want to recover the whole 20 records? Do I need to restore all 3 or a certain one? Because I took 3 differential backups, right? Differential 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I'm just going to kill connections, set the database to single user mode. Last one, yes. So David said the last one. This is a misconception I see a lot of people still has. David is right. A lot of people think that they are incremental. They are incremental. I mean, so I do not need the first and second. A lot of people think that I have to restore every. A differential backup is always the pages that got modified since the last backup. So if you look at your differential backup size, in most shops, right, because you are doing changes, you will see that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's getting bigger. That's why I said, if your change rate is so much, sometimes it's useless to take a differential. You might just take a full backup. So your recovery gets easier. And now I'm going to perform a restore using my full backup. And I'm doing the diff3 like David said, the last one, because last one should have all 15 records. And set it up to multi-user mode. And now if we do a count, we see that we have the all 20 record. Any question? Okay, transaction log backup. Just the standard setup. We're going to do 5 records and then do a full backup like we did last time. So now pay attention. I'm taking a 5 rows again, taking a transaction log backup. I'm inserting 5 rows, but I'm doing a full backup again. And I'm doing that purposely. Putting in 5, taking a transaction log backup. Now, I want to restore all 20 records. What backups should I restore? Any volunteer? Just remember, I took a full in between after the 15th row. The last full backup. I didn't take a last full backup, Olga. So my sequence was full transaction log, full transaction log. Yeah, I'll take the first full backup actually. Yeah, I think this and this will work. Yeah. All transaction log. What will happen if I do this one and this one? the second full and the second transaction log. Will that work? All guys typing. Okay. I think my point is more that the second full backup does not break your log chain side, right? So you can still use the both log backup. So, you know, what I'm doing here, I'm doing the first full and I'm going to do the 2 transaction log, but you can also try the second full log backup and then try the last transaction log. I think that will work too for you. So again, my whole goal is to try to understand, right? Last full backup also no, because the LN was not matched. The LSN was not matched. Yeah, I haven't tried that. I think it's the first one and the 2 transaction log. So, okay. Tail log backup. So we probably don't use this every day, but sometime, let me put this in a simple English. When do you use it? If your database is in a state that is not letting you to take a normal transaction log backup, you should take a tail log backup to recover the transactions that happened since your last planned transaction log backup, and you can use it to recover. So let's look at this. So this is our standard setup. We create a demo table and we insert 2 records. Just keep that in mind, taking a full backup. And we take 2 more, taking a transaction log backup. So we have 4 records right now. And now I'm taking 2 more, but I'm not taking any backup, right? So just this did not go to any backup, 5th and 6th one. Taking the database offline, I'm trying to mimic a scenario, and I'm going to delete the MDF, the data file. And now I try to take the database online, right? Of course, it's not going to come online. So what's the status of our database right now? Recovery pending. You can see it here, right? In this kind of scenario, before you do anything, you take a backup with no truncate. If you do not use no truncate, means you're trying to take a regular backup, which is going to truncate your logs, you're going to get an error because truncate is operation that cannot happen if your database is not online and functional. Okay, so now I have a tail log backup. So now I'm going to restore it in a different database named tail log test2. If it exists, then we drop it. I'm restoring the full backup that I had. You remember we had 6 records, right? And transaction log backup, tail log backup. I recovered all 6 records. If I did not take the tail log backup, I would recover only the first 4. Any questions or comments? Okay. Why is this not cleaning up? Okay, I can. Yeah, I'll deal with it later on. This is so I copied this code from here, from this book, and then I modified it for this presentation. If you are not familiar with file backups, this is a good article that I find. So I just put it here. And even though your plan is to do file level backup, I put this here purposely, and a lot of people do not do that, and you might regret depending on what situation you are in. So it's always a good practice to take a full database backup and then start the transaction log before the first file backup, right? So this will help in some of the recovery scenarios. So let's do a setup. And I'll show you here. I'm creating the database a little bit different than other scripts purposely. So I have a secondary file group and a primary file group, and then I have one file in each file group, and then of course I have a log file. And I'm doing this purposely for demo, not just saying create database like other ones I did. And then I'm creating two tables. So just pay attention if you want to follow this demo, because just for demo purpose, I'm creating two different tables in two different file groups. And I named it so we can track it, right? And I'm inserting one record each. I'm going to take a full backup of each data file. So note that here I'm saying I want to back up the primary file group. Here I'm backing up the secondary file group, not the whole database. And then I take a transaction log backup. And then let's put another set of record in both tables. And I can also do differential backups like we did the whole database. We can do it at a file group level. So we did that. And so this is our date time. So we'll use this as a point in time recovery later on. And now I'm putting a third set and taking a log backup. Another set, but we did not back this up, right? So what are you going to do now? We're going to take a tail log backup. For the fourth set. What is going on here? Okay, I don't know why. So now let's look at a restore scenario. Did the full backup for both file group. We're going to do the differentials and the second transaction log. And we're going to do the tail log backup. Right, so we got everything. Simple. if we need to do a point in time, so let's get the time. Remember, this should not, once we do this, it should not be having all the records. So if we need to go back and do that, we can use it. So we're doing the full backup, restore, doing the differential backups. And now we're going to do a point in time. Because we are point in time, we are only seeing the two records. So now the fun part is here. We set up the database offline. We're going to delete a file, but not both. So the file for the secondary file group. Cannot bring the database online. Same what we saw before. You can take a tail log backup, but the whole goal of this is right here. Now, do I have to restore every file group? No. And that is the beauty, because if it's a huge, like terabytes and terabytes of size, if I design it properly, at this point, I do not need to restore the primary file group because my secondary file group is the only one that damaged. So I'm only going to restore the file group 2 and my tail log backup. Make sense? Any question? Let's move on. Piecemeal restore. So again, if you have a huge database, and this line is getting blurred more and more between OLTP and OLAP. If I have bunch of data that are read-only, or some people might say like archive file group, and whatever you call it doesn't matter. So if you have a separate file group that only has read-only data, you do not need to back it up every time, right? Because there's no change on this data. So if you have a disaster, people are not really eager for the read-only data, right? People probably want to get the read-write part up and running to get your business running. So you can do that. People can start using the database, and then you can restore the archive part or read-only part, whatever you call it, later on. You do not have to have everything up and running at the same time. You can design it that way. So let's look at it. So again, just pay some attention here. I have a primary, I have a secondary, and I have a log file. So what I did here, I set up the secondary as my default file group. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Create two tables. I'll insert the data. And now I'm going to take a primary file group full. I'll do a log backup, and then the secondary file group, and then do another log backup. So there are two keywords that I want you to know. One is partial. That tells that a piecemeal restore and then replace, of course, you should just know the impact of a replace. So don't just use this lightly. So what I'm doing here, I'm doing a restore with partial, means I'm saying only restore my primary file or files from the primary file group. And then I'm just doing the to transaction log. I did not do the secondary file group. I didn't restore. I don't know if this is a bug in this SSMS or something else is going on. So yeah, if I do it right now, you'll see it probably will. Interesting. So, because the database is used. So. Hmm. Okay. So now we did not restore the secondary file group. So I have the data here. It cannot find this table, right? But this database is online, so people can now start using it, right, after a disaster. And I can slowly do the secondary file later on. And now you'll see that that table is also available. Any question? Okay. Partial backup. Actually, what I said in the previous one is more demo here, that I do not need to. So just read through these. We don't have time. You'll only use it if you have separate file groups with read-only data that people are not changing, and you're absolutely sure, right? You have a read-only file group. Otherwise, yeah, that's the scenario that you're going to use this. So again, I'm creating it with a, no, let me just do this. So now I have archive file group. I named it archive, and we don't need to back that up every time. And we're going to create two tables, main data, archive data. And I'm inserting 3 records in the main data table. And now I'm going to move this data to the archive table, and we'll set the archive file group to read only, right? So I'm moving I'm inserting it from here, setting the archive file group to read only, deleting the data from main data, and then we'll insert some into the main data. So my archive is going to have the first 3 records, and the main data is going to have record 4, 5, and 6. It's interesting. I thought you could change this to okay, I'm just going to move on so we can okay. So now I'll take a full backup. It's not a prerequisite, but it's just a best practice. And now look at this. I'm taking a full backup of the read-write file group, right? Not the archive file group. And I'll put another pre-records. I'll take a differential backup. And now I'm going to restore from the partial backup, right? Full and the div. And if we read, if we select now, I should see the 6 records that I inserted later on. And I should see the archive data in there. So I did not have to take backup and restore the read-only file group because there is no change there. So if you have a large data sets, large database that you cannot separate your archive data to a different database, or you are always moving your read-write data to the archive file group for read-only purpose, this can be a very good use. So I'm going to skip the myth. This is, you can read this. There are 5 myths that, that I see. Some I think we already discussed about. Full and differential backups doesn't break up your log chain. What backups are allowed on system database? This is very interesting. You'll find there's some inconsistency with our normal understanding about the database recovery model and what backups you can take. This question always come up. Do I need transaction log backup during full backup? And you can argue in both way. I take it, but you can decide not to, but there are some ramifications with it. And this is another question like, when I'm doing backup, does it use my buffer pool, right? This question comes out all the time. So I put some demo code here. If you want to see it, you'll see it there. So we have only 2 minutes. The last one is I want to talk about snapshot. This is still, I think, not a full baked job unless you have a third-party tool. For on-premises, you will definitely need a third-party tool. I think I'm just going to give you, I think this is the cream of this, right? So what Microsoft now does with the TSQL, it lets us to suspend the database, the IO to freeze for snapshot backup. And then if you are in Azure, if you're using IIS VM, you can take a snapshot, you can make a disk out of your snapshot and mount it, and then your database, doesn't matter how many terabyte, even if it's 10 terabyte, you can refresh a non-production environment in minutes because you're taking a snapshot backup. If you have a third-party snapshot tool like Pure Storage or from any other vendor, you can do this, suspend, and you can take that, and then after you are done, you can do the suspend off, and then you are done. So you will take a very little hit in your production just for the snapshot time, and then but you can get a non-production or a copy of your database with a fraction of minute, in a couple of seconds, irrespective of the database size. So I'm just going to stop sharing. I'll let Kevin close out. And if anybody has questions, comments, please let me know. Or I'm just going to put my my contact here. So I know we went pretty fast. There's a lot of stuff, but I can definitely be reached to any of this. And by weekend, I'll have everything up in my GitHub repo. So if anybody wants to go there, you can just download. If you just go to GitHub and search for SQL Worldwide, you'll see I'll upload this. Don't download it right now. I might have very old stuff. I haven't given this talk for a while, so I've been spending a lot of time in the last few days to refresh it. Kevin, to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Taiob. Yeah, while everyone is thinking of questions, I'm sure people do have some. Thanks for all the lively discussion here as well. I want to remind everyone that coming up on August 19th, we have Eden Blumen talking about the DBA's Essential Toolkit. So this one should go right along with that pretty well. Also, I'm going to put one out later today. Haven't finalized it yet, but we'll let you know there will be one coming out later today, at worst tomorrow. So yeah, get ready for that. Make sure to hit us up, see if you have any presentations coming up that will come out, or if there's some in our past catalog that you need help with. Start looking through. There's always bound to be some goodness there. So yeah, I don't see anybody having any more questions. But if they do, please feel free to type away, or as Taiob said, just hit him up on any of his different media. There's always some great goodness out there for that. So with that, see a couple of people typing in quickly. All right. As always, thank you, Taiob. It has been awesome. You're speaking on mute again.
I'm saying please reach out. I'm saying thank you for all your kind word, Olga, Nick, everyone. Yeah. So again, any question, comments? I'm not perfect. I don't know everything. I'm learning in the process. So send it to me if you need any help. But I'll make sure I upload everything, and then just take it, practice it. I probably have to refine a few things. I don't know if it's SSMS 21, because there was sometimes we couldn't get the database access. So I probably have to put some code to drop all sessions kill by force or something. But thanks again. The GitHub link, yeah, hold on, give me a minute. I will post it right now. Sorry, Kevin, I should have put it in my contact. I'll do that for next time. So
no, you're fine. I'll actually also put a link to the GitHub with this on our page. So
yeah, so you will see my, it's already there, but please don't download. These are very old stuff. Next weekend, I'll take some time, refresh everything, and then download it from there. So Young asked for the GitHub link. So just save that.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. This has been great fun as always. So remember, reach out to us if you have any questions. And as always, be sure to join us next time. Thank you all so much. Have a great day, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.
Bye.